What can this year's E3 tell us about the gaming industry? Well, for one, it can tell us that a lot of the big companies were not prepared. They basically had nothing concrete to show us. So we ended up with a lot of teasing, a lot of promises, or in some cases whatever Square Enix showed. I have no idea why Square Enix even had its own thing, because the only game that anybody cared about, the Avengers one, was not there. That game is not coming out this console generation. Because at E3 this year we found out that this console generation is on its last year. The next gen is going to be announced next year, everything's going to be made for it, and in 2020 we're going to have a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox that I really think they're going to call it the Xbox. So the bulk of the really big games, the really interesting announcements that we had from the big companies are for those consoles. They're not meant for this generation, so there's gonna be a while before we actually get to them. The new Halo game, Halo Infinite, I doubt very much it's gonna be coming out on the Xbox One, because if it were on the Xbox One, they would have probably showed more of the game rather than just a tiny teaser and then said nothing about it. Bethesda outright confirmed that Starfield will not be a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One game, and in the process they also confirmed that the Elder Scrolls 6 will also not be on this generation. It's going to be for the next one. And it's going to be out in, I think 2023. That's my estimate for it. With Starfield out at least in the year 2020 or most likely the year 2021. And I'm basing this on the idea that Bethesda will scale up during this time to allow them to produce both games at the same time. If not, then maybe 2026 for the Elder Scrolls 6. I've got to hand it to Bethesda though. As a conference, they had probably the best one when it came to the actual games that they made that were presented on the show. Sure, we only got very small snippets of stuff like Wolfenstein and Quake, which is a shame. I mean, they announced Doom 2 basically, and then said nothing about it. When's it coming? Is the rabbit gonna be in it? Can we save the rabbit from getting impaled like in the first Doom? I don't know. They never said it. We're gonna see it at QuakeCon. We're getting a new Wolfenstein game that's gonna star both of BJ's daughters. One of them which is, if I'm not mistaken, the mother or the grandmother of Commander Keen. So either the grandmother or the great-grandmother of the Doomslayer. They only showed small glimpses of the game, which is very sad because, well, we were interested in them. Honestly, a bit more than in Fallout 76. Though to be fair, Bethesda does know what it's doing because I'm gonna make a different show about the path that Fallout is in now. It's a path that I do not like, but it's a path that I understand, and it's a path that will lead them to a lot of sales. So them focusing on Fallout 76, yeah, that makes absolute sense. Sure, no problem, absolutely, you do you. What I'm saying is that at least Bethesda had that big focal point, a game that everybody's gonna buy, everybody cares about. Can't really say truly kind of the same about Electronic Arts. Yeah, they had Anthem, that is Destiny, and then nothing. The true highlight of the EA conference were two indie games. They didn't even have a Need for Speed this year because, they kind of killed the series again. It's gonna be back. They're gonna promise again the sea and the salt, as they say, honey and milk, and we're gonna get a bunch of bat guano, not even a good kind. I could kind of probably say the same thing about Microsoft's press conference because their first party things were, Gears of War 5, which I don't care about. A Funko Pop Gears of War games for kids, because and an XCOM Gears of War game. They're really committed to making Gears of War a thing again. I don't really get why. I think there may be somebody high up in the company that really likes Gears of War all of a sudden, so they greenlit all these projects, and they're gonna be coming out sooner-ish, approximately, I think. And Microsoft also announced that it basically bought every studio imaginable that's still independent. They bought On It Labs, they bought Playground Games, they bought Ninja Theory, they even bought Compulsion Games, so I guess they're gonna have them make the next big the next iteration of Sea of Thieves. But I did have one game that was really actually quite interesting, what technically now is a first party game. That was Forza Horizon 4, which I may or may not be showing you footage on the background because two jobs, it's kind of hard to edit things. well. So I may just dump the Devolver conference again on the background like I did last time. Forza Horizon 4 is basically the game that will kill the Crew 2 because, well, it doesn't have boats or airplanes, but it does have hovercrafts and it doesn't emulate 2 seasons. Whereas the Crew 2 has spontaneous winter or regular weather anywhere in the world map, apart from the bits that are permanently frozen. Forza Horizon 4 is gonna have 4 seasons, and they'll actually do something. They're not just something aesthetic. They will freeze water so you can drive over it, and I think I have a bit of an inkling that it's not gonna be just Destiny but with cars, which is what the Crew 2 is, whereas the Crew 1 was Ubisoft game the game with cars. So I think the game may just kill it. Well, it's not gonna be out on PlayStation, so that still has a bit of a chance to give it some oomph. But on PC and Xbox, it's not gonna be a really popular game. And mind you, Forza Horizon is not gonna be popular on PC too because of the Microsoft Store. So it's gonna be a really awkward, crushing defeat. The Microsoft conference was actually the one that showed pretty much the best games that didn't belong to Microsoft. Dying Light 2. Who would have guessed Dying Light 2 would turn out to be a more interesting game than pretty much anything that was announced like anywhere. Why? Because it's a sequel announced at E3 that doesn't have Battle Royale like every other sequel that they announced at E3, including Last Battlefield. It has a parkour system that looks so good it makes you wish Mirror's Edge had a sequel, and then you remember it had one and then forget about it again. But most of all, it's got a reactive world with story and characters written by Chris Avellone. Chris, I'm the only one that got Star Wars right, Avellone. Chris, Planescape Torment, Avellone. And the people that made some requests of The Witcher 3 like the one with the Bloody Baron. So, you know, story-wise, it's going to bury everything else. It's going to murder most of the games you've seen at E3 this year, with the exception of maybe Cyberpunk, which was also announced, well, not announced, but we saw it at Microsoft's conference. And it looked great. People are complaining that, well, it doesn't look cyberpunk enough. It's not night constantly and not everybody's wearing sunglasses indoors constantly at night. It doesn't look like a super duper stereotype that we've seen a billion times. It looks like a cyberpunk world, you know, during the daytime. People were complaining that it's first person. Oh my god, people, they've announced it's first person since the game was announced. That's when they announced it also would have a female playable character. That's when they announced you would customize your character. 50 years ago when the game was announced, they announced that stuff. And now people are shocked. Oh my god, it's first person. Why? I want it to be third person because I have no idea what an immersive sim is. There was also a playable demo of it at E3, but for the press, so we're probably going to see it at Gamescom, you know, for the general public. The Microsoft conference also had a bit of the, a lot of the, we've got stuff to show you, but nope, with, with Halo and with Battletoads especially. Like, Battletoads was shocking. It's a 2D game. How can you not have, like, even a screenshot of it? A piece of artwork from it. And it's made by Rare, so you know it's gonna be a lie. It's just gonna have one Battletoad. It's just gonna run around an empty level. More to come in the DLC, I guess. But again, Microsoft conference wasn't good because of the first party games. It was good because they announced stuff like Devil May Cry 5, which features the classic Devil May Cry continuity. This time you're playing as Nero, at least part of the game. He had his arm ripped off. And also Dante now looks like he's about to eat your dog. He looks really grumpy. Also Cuphead is getting another playable character and a expansion sequel sort of thing. Moving on to Ubisoft, well, they announced that they're giving up on making Assassin's Creed and they are just making a Witcher game set in Sparta and Greece and that area of the world. It's going to be Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm not sure how it relates to the Assassin's Creed lore because I thought the Origins game was supposed to be about the origins of the Assassin's Creed series, and this takes place a couple of centuries before it, like 4 centuries or something before it, or at least 2. The series sort of should have died with Assassin's Creed 3, honestly. Or at least sometime before it, you know, when Patrice Desilets left, or was fired. That's around when they had no idea anymore what to do with it. Still no mention of a standalone multiplayer mode from Brotherhood and, you know, Revelations, even AC3 and 4. They also showed more totally not gameplay from the soon-to-be cancelled Beyond Good and Evil 2, because let's face it, they're gonna cancel it again. That's what Ubisoft does. All they have at this point are cinematics. They are promising there's gonna be a beta sometime at the end of next year. depending on how strong the fear of Vivendi is with them, it may be cancelled. And Ubisoft also, oh yeah, there was a Division 2, which is a Division 1 but without the snow, so no charm to it, and now it has raids. I can't be bothered by the Division at all. I saw some gameplay footage of it. It didn't look like they improved anything. And also their dance thing with the panda. No Girlwood this time though. They dropped the issue for some reason. Moving on to Sony's conference. Well, they showed Control, which is a new game from Remedy. They showed more trailers from, well, Spider-Man, the new game that's probably going to be a quick time event. From The Last of Us, which it kind of sort of looks like how Lara Croft looks now. Only Ellie has a bit more reason to be a total and absolute insane person because she grew up in an apocalypse, whereas Lara is going to have to see her shrink a bit more. We got more footage from Death Stranding, which still strange game that We also got that Ghosts of Tsushima game that looks like Witcher 3 set in Japan. And I mean, besides Neo 2, was it announced at this year's E3? I forgot about it. We gotta get also a new game from Software back at the Microsoft conference, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which also appears to be set in a Japanese type kind of situation type thing. Then it's probably gonna compensate for the lack of an Onimusha game. It does look quite neat. Also mentioned Nintendo, but all they showed was the new Brawl game that's gonna have every character that's ever been in a Brawl game, and they showed nothing from Metroid Prime 4, because why would they? They announced it a year ago simply because they had nothing to announce. Last year, they had no games for the Switch then, so they just invented something. Hey, let's announce this. It's not even in pre-production, we barely have a logo for it. And it's probably gonna be out like in 2 years. Can't really say that there was really much to be excited about for this year's E3, especially on the PC side. I mean, we did have the PC gaming show where Ubisoft showed less than a minute from Anno 1800. You'd think they'd show something in their conference, but no, why would they? You would interfere with the dancing bear. And of course, still no sign of Half-Life 3. Not that I was expecting there to be. They could have been. Just saying. I mean, Gabe up on that stage saying, Half-Life 3 is out now on Steam. Go get it. Go play it. And everybody leaves E3. That's my dream. That's how I want the game to be announced. But everybody leaving E3. Because you know what would happen, right? It would happen. So what did this year's E3 say about the gaming industry? Well, everybody's gonna have Battle Royale. Everybody's already abandoned this generation of consoles and they're moving to the next one. Everybody's already abandoned the year 2018 because, well, Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be out this year and it's going to sell so much that it's going to cannibalize pretty much every other game. A few Brave Souls are still here. Well, the annual shooter things that always have an audience are still here. And Hitman as well, because, you know, it's Hitman 2. It's its own thing. Oh yeah, they did announce a Jedi game that I forgot about mostly because, well, you know, it was kind of announced by somebody that seemed to be at gunpoint before the game was even at the stage at which it had a name, let alone had production started on it. And it said it's gonna be out next year. Oh, no. Respawn has better chances of being shut down than that game has of being released next year. It's probably gonna be for the new next-gen consoles as well. Man, was this a kind of an awkward console generation, wasn't it? I mean, the old one that got like, what, 2 Elder Scrolls games and 2 Fallout games? This one got 2 Fallout games. Well, it got a main Fallout game and a multiplayer spin-off, and a port of an Elder Scrolls game. Wow, that's sad. But on the bright side, they did get a port of Pagaba and that of War 4, so that's something. Well, I guess it'll be it for the show. If it sounds like it was haphazardly put together and rushed, yeah. But to be fair, that was the spirit of E3 as well. Goodbye.